Hey, Annette.
Hey, Sandra.
After we recorded our last episode, I realized that I had made a mistake in answering one of your questions. And because I made that mistake, that took us on a totally different tangent. So, what you had actually asked me was, what does visibility mean? That's so vague. And instead of answering that question, I went off on this tangent describing what safety feels like.
Mm,
The concepts are related, as we talked about in our last episode 48,
yeah,
but they're not the same conversation. So I was wondering if today we could go back to your original question.
I would love that. And I think that this is a good thing that happens because safety has to come first. And I think that's what we discovered over the course of episode 048 is that safety is that foundation that visibility is built upon. But once we've done that work, then the question is like, what are we actually trying to become visible for? And
Mm,
then we can ask, what does visibility really mean?
I love this.
So if you two struggle with this concept of what does visibility really mean? How do I become visible? Sandra and I invite you to follow and subscribe so that you can be a part of the conversations that are ongoing from this point forward.
So Annette, let's start first with redefining what visibility means, because most people think when we think visibility, especially I think as an entrepreneur, we're thinking about LinkedIn, we're thinking about being visible at networking events, maybe doing public speaking. And what I know when I would think about it from a corporate perspective, I'd often think about it from internal networking, but also self promotion. And I know that that is a kind of an awful, or sorry, not an awful, but more of a complex term that I think for a lot of women feels really uncomfortable.
I think visibility is a lot of different things depending on where you're at, who you work for. Do you work for yourself? Are you in a corporation? I would say that I define visibility as allowing yourself to be seen by others as you want to be seen and being able to get noticed and not have to rely on being noticed. That's something I think that a lot of women were told early in your career, right? You do a good job and Sandra, you'll be noticed. You you show up on time and you'll be noticed. And that's just simply not true. Maybe it was true at one time. I doubt it. I feel like it's something that women were told in the workplace. So it's not true. And so you have to step into yourself to be visible so that people know who you are, know what you contribute, know if they need your help at work, know if they need your help if you're an entrepreneur. And I don't know that that was a clear definition, but those are the things that come to mind when I try and define visibility. How about for
Mm,
you?
I love that. Yeah, I've been spending a lot of time with this topic in particular the last 2 months. And I
Yeah.
really liked what we said at one of the earlier sessions when we were talking about stories that we netted out with, which was, what do you want to be known for?
I think that's a huge one. And that
Yeah,
can relate to every part
exactly.
of your
Exactly.
life.
So, as an entrepreneur, it's not just what did I do, but
Mhm.
it's what do I stand for? What is my thought leadership? What is my position on certain things, which honestly can be very triggering, especially right now when the world is so divided. Thankfully, my job or the job that I choose to do doesn't require me to express my views politically often. And so I can focus on what I think it means to be human. I can focus on what it means to be trauma informed. I can focus on the things that I want people to know about what it's like to work with me. So, yeah, I think it's about what matters to me. What is it that I contribute to? How do I think? And then really not visibility from the perspective of, I want to be on stage because I just want to be on stage and I want people to see me. But it's about creating leadership around those items, who I am and what I think about and how I help people so that people can self-identify as to whether I'm somebody that they want to work with. Visibility to me is more about, do you understand who I am? You don't understand who I am. What do I need to share with you about myself so that you do understand who I am?
Mm, yes.
So,
Yeah.
can you talk a little bit about how that might work in, say, like a corporate culture or from a career rather than as an entrepreneur?
Yeah, in a corporate career or a career inside of an organization, whether that's for profit or a nonprofit organization, I still believe what you're saying holds true, a lot of it, especially what kind of value do you deliver? What can people rely on you for? What sort of jams can you help people get out of? And that can become part of your personal brand, and that is the thing that gained you visibility. So, thinking back to my own career, right, there'd be somebody let's go way back to my telecom days. You used to have to code a phone line, and you used to have to actually know the codes that made the phone lines ring and work. Anyways, if there was somebody at the call center that I worked and they could not get the phone line to work, they'd be like, "Take it to Annette. She'll tell you in a second what you missed." And so that was something that I used to be known for even when I wasn't a leader or a trainer. I was just a rep on the phone like everybody else, like those 400 people that work there, but I could spot that thing. And that was something that helped me be visible. So then when they were looking for customer service reps to act as lead customer service reps, I had that opportunity because I was visible in that way. And then when they asked for people that used to be leads to come into the classroom and train the new hires, that's some extra visibility. So, what is that value you deliver that you're comfortable delivering that doesn't drain you to death? And can you use it as the stepping stone to how you want to be viewed next, which could be a promotion or it could be a different role altogether? But what does that look like? And maybe purposefully mapping it out and not letting your early career up to chance like I did.
And I think, I love what you're saying there because I think what I left our conversation with, or what after I replayed our conversation over and over in my head, and I realized you had asked me the different question than the one that I had answered. What really came through for me is intentional visibility versus
Mm,
accidental visibility, right?
yes.
So people are going to see us, period. They're going to make assumptions about us. Doesn't
Mhm.
matter. The
Correct.
real question is how can we be intentional about what is said, how it's said, what we share? And
Mm,
that really stayed with me for a long time, and I think what you just referenced there about stories is
yeah.
so important because there's going to be stories about us, whether
Yeah.
we want them to be there or not. What is the intentional story that we want to carry with us? And even then, how do we even know?
Yes.
I mean,
So I think that there's clues, correct? As entrepreneurs, our potential clients give us clues all the time. They ask questions under our social media post, and that's a clue about how somebody wants to be perceived or information that they need about us. Same thing in a corporate environment. And Sandra, you were in a big corporation for many, many, many years. What does your boss value? What does their boss value? What are your goals? What are the KPIs that you have to achieve every month or every quarter? Those are clues. And that's where you can build an intentional visibility story that you have successfully done this or that, or you have achieved that goal, and you do it month after month after month. Those are great ways to start the visibility. And then once you're in the rooms and you're assigned to a stretch project or you're asked to help outside of your own department, then you can expand that intentional visibility story. And one other way that you can be more visible is get outside of your team. And you can do that by joining the employee resource groups or the business resource groups. You can do that by joining the volunteer activities, when everybody goes out into the community, get involved with that because many times you're assigned into groups that you would have never encountered those people if you were walking by them in the office or you're waiting to get assigned to a project with them on it. And that can lift your visibility and help you be seen by others with your intentional visibility story, whatever story you've decided to tell.
I'm sitting here with so many thoughts as I listen to what you just said. Let's talk a little bit about how we can especially in a corporate environment, because this is something that I think a lot of women that we talk to face all the time.
Yes.
How do I talk about my accomplishments?
Mhm.
How can I talk about what I do well
Mhm.
and not feel kinda icky about it? Like, not feel like, "Hey, I'm just bringing this up so you know I was really excellent in project Y and Z." I think that's a place to start.
I think it feels icky in the beginning because it's not something natural. So, permission to feel icky, permission to feel uncomfortable, and also permission to practice. So, I want to challenge a lot of people listening on their one on ones. So, one on one meetings are usually one of two things: people love them or they hate them. So, if you hate them, I need to try and win you over to the love them side. Okay, maybe I just want to win you over to the tolerate them side, but they're the place to practice your stories. So, use that meeting as an intentional practice stage to talk about how you've achieved it. And then you need to get your leader on board with you and say, what does this story do for you? How does this help you show value for your team so that you can learn how your leader is thinking so that you can create and generate more stories
So wait a
that reach
minute, let
their
me ask
levels?
you a question there.
Yeah. 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 Let's
When
do
you
it.
say, "How does this help you build your story?" That's a question I'm asking my boss directly?
It is, yeah. You're gonna ask your boss, "Listen, this success, this thing that I've been achieving, how does this help you? Tell me how this helps you. Do I need to do that much around this project, or is this a throwaway project where you had to give a body to it and you don't care? What do they want to know about?" And then also, you're gonna use that time to break free of any roadblocks that you've been experiencing at work. You're going to get them to help you navigate the organization so you can see what's going on at a bigger, wider level than the visibility you have from your chair.
That's so good because I think too, it offers your boss an opportunity to maybe talk about perception, not
And
just
that's
about
the piece
you.
you were talking about, right? You were
Yeah.
saying this story that people are going to create or develop or tell about you. Have you seen that meme? I think it's on Instagram where they're like, the back of my hair, it's none of my business, right? Because I can't see it. There's no, there's nothing that I can do to fix the back of my hair. I have to hope that it's pleasing to people that are standing behind me, but I don't know that. So, other people's opinions of you is like the back of your hair. You know they exist, but there's not a darn thing you can do about it. You're going to be okay with not managing to other people's perception of you. All you can do is say, here's how I want to be perceived. Here's the things I've achieved. Here's the things I've done. Here's how it's helped you, your team, your organization. And you keep telling that story with enough frequency and enough success that people will say, ah, Annette's back of her hair is the hot mess express. But I really like what she does for my organization when she does this. The fact that she achieves this goal every month is really good for me and my team. And then that other story, whatever it is, I drive a bad car, my hair's a mess, whatever that other story is that's circulating about me becomes a non issue because I get success in other areas.
I'm sitting with that. One, because I realized what I did wrong or not what I could have done better. Maybe not what I
Okay.
did wrong, but what I could have done better in my own one-on-ones with my immediate supervisors. But I'm also thinking as a person who had people reporting to her, I could have asked my team members, "How do you think this work that you're doing contributes to the department, to the organization, to our clients?" And allowed them to think about it from the perspective of how do I talk about this with
Mhm.
people who don't have the visibility into my work, but who are higher up the organizational chain that I could create visibility with.
Yes. And as a leader, Sandra, is there a way you can send your team members in to represent you? You don't have to be gone for a week's vacation to have people attend meetings on your behalf. You can give them an opportunity to be seen, be more visible, make a bigger contribution, see what happens at cross functional meetings because you can send them to those meetings. And then you might actually be able to free yourself up for something else. Visibility works in a lot of different ways, but I'm back to that question that you asked, which is what do I want to be known for? So, do you want to be known for creating opportunities for your team? Do you want to be known for questioning them and helping them think more big picture? Do you want to be known for having great one-on-ones that challenge, question, and create a difference in the organization? I would say yes to all those things. And then from the team member experience, it's a little uncomfortable, but you do it anyways. And then you turn it into something that works for you and helps you get seen.
So the other thing that I'm sitting with is you go to this meeting or you're on a project that's a
Mhm.
stretch project
Yeah.
and you make a mistake.
Mm,
And though that now becomes part of the public narrative, right?
it can be. Mhm. How can you own that mistake and turn it into an opportunity for learning? And how can you be just as visible with that mistake as you are with your success? Because what I find is when we shrink and we try and distance ourselves from that, that often makes it worse. But when you own it, when you step up, when you meet with all the people involved and say, I didn't realize this was a mistake. I didn't realize the impact this would make. I'm clear on it now. Tell me what I need to know from your perspective. You're going to win a lot more relationships with that attitude than you are if you just disappear and say to your boss, I'm never going to those meetings again. I'm an idiot.
I said recently that visibility is kind of like a hot stove analogy for me personally. I've had a lot of experiences in my life where something happened. It had an impact that was far beyond what I ever envisioned. And then, of
Oh,
course, the stories that came back as a result. Did you really say this at that meeting? Was that person really there? And did you really tell them X and Y? And of
mhm.
course, you're mortified,
Yes.
right? Or you're like, how did everybody get that from what was actually said at the meeting? And, you want all the details. Who said that? Why did they say that? That's not what I said. And it becomes very defensive.
Mhm. It can be.
It can be very defensive,
Yeah.
especially if what the narrative that's coming back, it has been blown out of proportion or is maybe more negative or more critical than what you had intended. And so I think about how do we spend time separating the part of the story that is ours to carry versus, the part of the story that we can't do anything about because it relates to how other people perceive us.
Yeah, and I'm gonna ask you that question. So, we talked about stories, oh my gosh, going all the way back to episode 42, and there's different pieces and parts. I think what we came to together is that people will have stories about you.
Yes.
So, what is the story that you have, and how do you tell it? How do you own it? How do you say, "This piece is mine, and the rest is OPC, other people's crap?" If I were to channel my inner Sandra, that's what I'd say. I think reviewing the story with someone is a great way to do that. Is that person your boss? Is that person your informal mentor? Is that person somebody else that was at the meeting with you? And then what you can do is go round robin and have those individual one-on-one meetings. Share from your perspective what the intention was, what you were looking for, and that you realize it didn't happen that way. So can they help you rewrite the story? Would they be willing to say something in the next meeting? Would they send a note to whoever's recording the meeting notes and say, listen, this is the thing that should be in there? There's so many things. How
There
would
is.
you, yeah, how would you handle this OPC part of the story?
Yeah, and one of the things that we had talked about in an earlier episode was just being aware that there's internal self-talk that's happening,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And understanding that there's a nervous system reaction in addition to the reaction to what's being said by whom, maybe the nervous system reaction is bigger because of the person that's saying it to you
Mm, yes.
versus what is being said, right? Because you carry a story about that person, right? And
Yes.
therefore, the fact that they're asking you about this, you can make it a bigger thing than it needs to be. So, just noticing the nervous system, what's happening in your body as you're sitting there hearing this is so important. And then I think this is one of the things that a coach can really
Mm,
help with. And what I mean by that is it's not really easy sometimes to figure out what should I do? Because our
Mhm.
initial response might be, I got to go fix this. And in the I got to go fix this, we make the problem worse.
Yes, so possible.
And often, what's getting triggered from a nervous system response perspective is a bigger, deeper story than the one that is being told about us in the moment. And working with a coach to excavate that story can be very helpful in terms of either working through the triggering events that led to that story and coming to peace with that story because that story doesn't define who you are as a person either,
Mhm.
or can unearth some trauma that you didn't even know you were carrying, in which case, then a referral to an excellent therapist can be very helpful in coming to a better understanding of why you're carrying or what happened as a result of that trauma. So, this is why I say working with a coach can be incredibly helpful when you run into this situation because we're not often aware of our what it is that we're carrying that the nervous system reaction is what's underneath the nervous system reaction. And so when you work with a coach or I mean, you can also work with a really good trusted advisor. I would caution
Yeah.
that what you don't want is somebody who's going to solve the problem for you. What you want is somebody who's going to ask you probing questions that are going to be able to allow you to sit and excavate and unearth what it is that's happening underneath the reaction.
So
And then
helpful.
once you understand that, like I think the biggest thing for me was understanding who I am and how I impact others.
Mhm.
And as a result, I can be a little more centered. I say a little more because there's always room for improvement. But I can be more centered in evaluating the commentary that I get when I trigger the responses that in the past might have really impacted me, and
Mhm.
now I can detach a little bit more from it, but that was a lot of, personal work that I did to understand what's happening underneath that.
I love that you were able to unearth that. And I have a question for you because what you're talking about with the trauma and unraveling the stories, what if the story is based out of fear and nothing that's actually happened yet?
Correct.
This is a challenge that a lot of my clients and potential clients, people I just talk to casually about their careers, they have this deep fear that is not rooted in any sense of reality. It's just worry and doubt. And I dare say it's a strange form of perfectionism, but I'm not sure that that's exactly true either. It's definitely fear, though.
A All of it is fear.
Mhm.
At the very bottom of it is fear, and so the question I always ask is, "What is the fear?
Yeah.
Where did you learn that fear?
Mm.
Was there a time when that fear happened?" You and I have talked in the past about mindset and
Mhm.
how it's like nails on a blackboard for Sandra,
Yeah.
because calling it mindset implies that there's a good mindset and a bad mindset, or
Mm.
a favorable mindset and an unfavorable mindset.
You mean a fixed and a growth mindset?
No, I mean that there are mindsets that people say are healthy versus
Mhm.
unhealthy. And what I'm suggesting is all of our mindsets are healthy. They developed for healthy reasons. They
Right.
helped us survive. They are adaptive skills.
Yes.
So that fear was adaptive at some point.
Yeah.
It's no longer, it might not be adaptive any longer. It may not be helpful at this particular point. But
Yeah.
because we've never examined what's underneath that fear, it still keeps coming up.
Yeah. Yeah. I hear so many people worry and fear losing their jobs and not losing their jobs as in being laid off. There's not going to be a darn thing you can do about that about 99.99% of the time. But people who have never been fired for performance fearing being fired for performance. And that, wow, that is a wild story that you're
And
carrying.
even if they haven't, they've had colleagues who have been.
Oh, I'm certain we all have.
Right, and we've
Um,
seen people fired for no reason at all, and we've seen the consequences of those firings, right?
yes.
And we know what our financial reality is right now, and so imagining using that as as fodder for imagining what might happen, that's
Mm,
very realistic.
yes, and it can be crippling.
Oh, hugely so.
Yeah, yeah. I love that we can recognize these fears as stories, right? And then we can dismantle that story and say, where did that come from? Did it
Mhm.
happen to me? Really evaluating it from an objective perspective, taking it outside of my head and heart, and maybe committing it to paper, working it through with a coach, a very trusted mentor, a therapist, and then deciding what that new story is that we're going to work
Yes,
on.
absolutely. Something you said, the part that I wrote down that I
Yeah.
don't wanna lose track of, something you said when you were talking about, asking your boss for feedback and what is it that they want. It comes back to you were saying something about KPIs. What does
Mm,
my boss think about that? What is it
yeah.
that my boss values? I think that's such an important conversation for 2 reasons. One, because it's important to know how you're going to be evaluated.
True.
Where I start to feel uncomfortable, and
Mm,
it's something that we ended up in episodes 46 and 48 talking about, and that is, but who am I authentically? Am I in
yeah.
the right place,
Yeah.
right? Because if my boss values and what's really important and what my KPIs are does not sit well with me, then what do I do with that information?
I say, first of all, congratulations, you have that information. Because what had happened if you didn't ask?
Exactly.
You wouldn't know. And then if you find out information that creates this incongruency for you or creates this feeling of, oh boy, I really am in the wrong place, then you can take action based on that. But had you not known, or had you keep canceling your one-on-one because you don't have any reason to talk to your boss, or you get a new boss and you don't want to have a one-on-one because you're loyal to your old boss. These are all things that I think put career professionals at a disadvantage instead of an advantage. You cannot keep your head down, do your job, and A, expect to be noticed, or B, hope nobody ever notices you. Because these same behaviors act both ways, right? One of them says, I'm so good that they won't be able to ignore me. I'm just going to keep plowing ahead. And the other one says, don't pay attention to me. I'm not worth paying attention to. I'm just trying to come here and punch the clock and leave at 5 o'clock and keep my job. They're the same behaviors, but we're going about them for different reasons. So let's evaluate those and let's get the information we need to decide what's next. And then, Sandra, that's where we start questioning. Okay, what do I want to do next? What are my values? Where can I find work that aligns with them? What kind of organizations do I really think are amazing and awesome? I had a client a couple months ago in the artificial intelligence space, and this person was so intelligent, so deep into this space, one of the originators, really. And they got a meeting and they were so excited about this meeting. And then they started really researching about the firm. And this person said, I can't do that. That doesn't align with my values. And they canceled the meeting. So I think you have to be well versed in who you are and what you want before you decide, does that person's other actions align with that?
I think that's such an incredibly important point that you're raising because often when we get our feedback, when we get a perspective on how other people are viewing us, our instinctual response is not, "Oh, am I in the right place?" It's, "How do I change? What do I need to do differently?"
Mm,
And then we go about twisting ourselves up into knots to try to fit in, to try to do the right thing, to try to work our way up the corporate ladder, and we never stop to ask, "Is my ladder even, against the right wall? Like, do I even want to climb this ladder?" And oftentimes, the answer to those questions might be terrifying in and of itself. What happens when I have spent 30 years at a company or 20 years at a company and
yeah.
realize, "Oh, I don't even wanna be here anymore." What do we
Mhm.
do with that?
Oh, Sandra, we're back to your question, which is what are you making this story mean? What are you making that story mean that you've been there 20, 30 years? Are you saying, I've been here for 20 or 30 years and I've wasted that time? Is that what you're making it mean? Or is it just an acknowledgement that I've been here for 20 or 30 years and now I get to choose something else? And now I get to find something that's more interesting. And I did a great job in this role for 20 or 30 years. And there's something next for me. I would like to think that that's a great story that we can weave about it.
Of course, the other thing that this brings up is, did you do yourself a disservice by just
Mm,
doing what your company asked you to do
yeah.
and not looking at how are my skills transferable outside of this organization?
Yeah.
Which is also all about controlling your visibility, right? Because a company may not see the value that you know that you can have, and so they may not give you the opportunity. But if you take control of your visibility
Mhm.
and be willing to engage with others to talk about the work that you bring and the value that you bring. And knowing your own worth, speak to those things. Not only can you get more visibility, not only can you get exposure to projects that maybe no one considered you for, but you're really taking control of your own career in the organization or outside of the organization. Because honestly, if the company folds,
Yeah.
if they
Tomorrow.
let you yeah, if they let you go. If the industry changes like the industries are changing right now,
Yes.
and you need to go and take your skills and your talents to other organizations.
Yes. Thank you, LeBron.
Can we tag him now that we've mentioned him?
I don't know. I don't think so. But,
Gosh,
whatever, Sandra. It'll be fine.
but I think it's an important consideration, right? I think in all of this discussion, we keep netting back to where we ended in episode 48. Are you choosing yourself first, or are you choosing everybody else first?
Mhm. I think that's a great guiding question to ask yourself. And then the other piece that I just want to touch on briefly is if you've woken up one day with the realization that you're in the wrong place or, oh my gosh, I've wasted these past 20 years. I would invite you to stop there and ask yourself, how can you honor what you've already done? Because
Mm,
honestly, you cannot change those actions. They're already completed. How can you honor it? How can you learn from it? And then how can you make a new choice, a new selection? Ask a different question. Let's not go back and beat ourselves up or tell ourselves a million stories about that time we've already had. Let's frame it. Let's move forward and
and
let's
I happen
show
to
up.
know an excellent career coach that can help you answer those questions.
That's conscious.
And if you haven't been listening to our stories here, her name would be Annette Garstack at Annette
Oh,
Garstack Career Consulting. Definitely give her a call because she's amazing at helping you sort out the answer to that question, and it's so important.
yeah. And Sandra, I appreciate that you see that in me. And I think you have this wonderful ability to help women just stop and say, okay, where are you now? What do you want for yourself next? And you are great at helping them detangle these stories that we've built to survive, but now that are no longer supporting us. So
They
yes,
should
I'm
hire both of us.
yeah. Maybe we can give them a 2-for-1 special, where they
Okay.
get the benefit of working with both of us.
We come as a
Um,
team.
We are a great team. I do agree with that. And careers are complicated. And sometimes we fall into things not knowing. I can't tell you that my career was so purposeful, so intentional. No, it was a bunch of random acts of career violence at this point. I don't know what it was. Um, but how I got to where I was going, even though I didn't at the time know where that was I continued to be visible and I continued to ask for more and I continued to work up and eventually outside of my original organization because I saw that that was the path forward, even though I didn't have a complete roadmap. I was like turning around every corner and making a choice. And I think that's okay for other people to do that as well. Once you know that you don't want to do that anymore and you want to do something more intentional, that is a great time to say, I'm so grateful for what I've had so far. And now I'm ready for more. I'm ready to do something different.
I think what you just displayed there was a beautiful way of showing I choose me.
Yes.
And when I say I choose me, often it could be misconstrued as I know what I want. I know myself perfectly and I can make that choice. And the reality is no, we tried this, we tried that, we tried this other thing and at some point we figure out, "Oh, wait a minute. I'm like not where I need to be and I'm choosing me again." But in
Yeah.
every one of those instances, there was a choice.
And
Something
you
you
can
don't
choose
know.
to stay with your organization that you've been at for 20 years and not give 150% but percent of yourself, but just give what you need to give to work in that role. Those choices are okay. And sometimes that's what women are given like this ultimatum choice, right? You choose your family or you choose your work. You choose your career or you choose to not, I don't know, you choose your education or you don't, right? There's these false choices or false selections. I don't know. I don't know the right word, but they're not the only choices.
Yes.
And you can choose one of those big, huge things that people say you shouldn't choose because it works for you or it's what you need in the moment. And so choosing you also means knowing what you need so that you can choose what's right for you, even though you're getting all these external pressures to choose something else or choose what Sandra chose or choose what Annette chose or choose what your sister chose.
Or choose what your boss wants you to do because it
Ah,
works for them.
yes. Right, and you don't need to come in at 5 o'clock in the morning every day. Yes, and sometimes choosing you just means standing up for whatever you need, whatever that may be. Yeah, and I don't know that that's even visibility. Did we even finish talking about visibility,
We
Sandra?
did. I think the where we net it out with visibility
Yeah,
is people are gonna carry stories about you regardless.
you got it.
Did you intentionally create that story?
Oh,
And if you didn't intentionally create that story or write it, what can
mhm,
you do about it?
mm,
And you gave us some excellent ideas on what you can do about it.
yeah. And if you haven't already participated in writing that story, or you think you're going to start right now, making that change and doing that for you in your career, then what's one conversation that you could have this week that helps someone understand you a little bit better? And if you want to participate a little bit deeper in this conversation with Sandra and I, then we both invite you to join our email community at exposingthehiddenreality.com.
Maybe we can, invite LeBron.
I mean, maybe we can, but what if he says no?
Would he really say no to us?
I don't know if we've given him enough reasons to say yes, but we can work on this. We can work on
Okay.
this. Yeah.
LeBron, we're coming for you. Bye.
Bye.